Hello, I'm Michael Verney and welcome to the Irish Independent's weekly GAA Championship preview video. I'd like to be joined by Frank Roach. Frank, how are you doing?
Very well, Michael.
Right good weekend to look forward to, Frank. It might be the last year of this current All-Ireland structure, but we have 8 games, all with serious consequences. Armagh are the only team through, but they could, kick out one of their rivals, one of their main rivals in last year's All-Ireland finalists in Galway. Just a quick one though first. With all the excitement and all the jeopardy coming into this weekend, why are we changing this structure?
Well, there have ever since this structure came in, this is the year 3 of we call it the trial period. There have been a lot of complaints. Why would you play 24 matches to eliminate 4 teams? Which is a valid enough argument, and especially with the season has been compressed, and yet we're playing all these matches to only get rid of so many teams. But the flip side of that is that when it comes to the last round, in most cases, there's always something on every particular match. There's been 1 or 2 matches in the last 2 years where it was a dead rubber. This year, luckily enough, or maybe unluckily for the Croke Park Chiefs because they're getting rid of the format, there's something on every match. And you referenced Armagh Galway, which is a good example because some people might say Armagh are guaranteed to top the group. What have they to play for? Are they going to show full hand? But you can be sure that Kieran McGeeney is thinking, I'm playing Galway here, one of our main rivals, team we faced in last year's All-Ireland final. If we beat them, and depending on the result between Dublin and Derry at the same time, Galway are gone.
Yeah, and just even on that, last year Limerick had the chance to knock out Cork in the hurling, didn't take it, and it came back to bite them in the ass when they ended their 5 in a row. So maybe when the opportunity is there, Armagh should seize it.
Oh, exactly. Now, I still expect Kieran McGeeney to rotate his squad this weekend. It would make perfect sense. Because why would you play what you call your first 15 when you don't have to? But also Armagh have a deeper squad than anyone else in this competition, and the chances are by calling up 5 or 6 players who have been close or have been getting on in previous matches, the performance level might actually stay at the same level or even up a bit then.
And they might have them even more road tested when it comes to a quarter-final or semi-final.
Exactly. It's a perfect scenario for Kieran McGeeney this weekend.
Yeah, it really is, and we'll stay in that group because it's probably there's 2 groups of death. We love our groups of death, but that's definitely one of them. Dublin and Derry. What a game. Dublin went to Salt Hill, produced a massive performance, particularly in the, after the hangover of the Leinster semi-final defeat to Meath. They were poor the last day against Armagh in Croke Park, and they're facing a Derry team who have been slow burners this year. They've even been slow burners going on from last year into this year, but they look close to back to their best. Even Lachlan Murray is back, Niall Loughlin is back, Conor McCluskey's probably the one that they are missing, but they probably should have beaten Galway the last day. And I think this is beautifully poised going up to Park Esther on Saturday evening.
Oh, it really is. And I mean, I wasn't at the Galway Derry game. I think you were covering it, but I watched it back closely enough last week, and I would reckon it's the best Derry have played since last year's league final. And their record since then has been pretty deplorable. Like in league and championship, it's something like 2 wins, and that includes a penalty shootout victory over Mayo last year, 2 draws, and I think 12 defeats. Now, Dublin's record since that epic league final hasn't been brilliant either. By Dublin standards, it's been really poor. I think they've lost 6 games in league and championship. And this year, for the first time since they started winning All-Irelands by the new time from 2011 on, they've lost 2 matches in the championship before it got to what you call straight knockout stage. They hadn't even lost, I think, 1 match up to the straight knockout All-Ireland series in that entire period. And that sums up the inconsistency we've seen from Dublin this year. And it's no surprise given the players they've lost, not just the number of players, but the quality of them. Like, we're talking about generational stars. Now, on their day, Dublin can still be very, very good. I mean, that Galway game is a classic example. It was the best I've seen Kieran Kilkenny play in years. But it was also a classic performance of a team that needs to produce. It was a backlash performance. They'd been so poor against Meath. I won't say the knives are out, but every eye was looking at Dublin to see, are they finished? And they played really, really well. But they didn't back it up the next day. They played well in patches against Armagh. They started really well. But I mean, whereas in the past we've seen Dublin not so much shoot the lights out, but be really efficient, taking their shots from the right place and generally scoring them. They shot, I think it was 17 wides, dropped a few more short. And we also had that bizarre period early in the second half where they conceded they breached the 3-up rule 3 times in the space of 5 minutes. And if you couple in a 2-point free Armagh got in the first half for impeding a player after a kick-out mark, that's 5 points they gave up to Armagh, and they lost by 5 points. So it was a messy performance in lots of respects. It was a far cry from the peak Dublin of 5-6 years ago. But you've got to remember, this is not the same Dublin team. They're still contenders, but if they lose to Derry, and if Galway get a win against Armagh, Dublin are out. I mean, not many of us really expect maybe that to happen, but Derry were a lot closer to what they were at their peak a couple of years ago in that match against Galway. And you mentioned that they're getting the bodies back. They had, I think, 11 of the players who started that league final started the last day. And you can add in Lachlan Murray coming off the bench back from recent injury. Odin Lynch, who had been the regular keeper, has been beset by injuries this year as well. I think he was on the bench that day. So they're getting closer.
Yeah, call that group.
Oh,
1, 2,
God.
2, 3, 4.
I don't. Well, I think Armagh will definitely top the group anyway.
Yeah, well, that's safe.
Beyond that, I mean, I find it really difficult to call it, to be honest. I mean, if Derry play like they did the last day, and if Dublin play like they did against Armagh, if there's every chance Derry will get a result. I still think Dublin will find a way somehow, but we've also got the Con O'Callaghan factor. Is he going to be fit to play this weekend? Con wasn't there the last day, and when he's not around, and Dublin are looking around for leaders,
particularly now, Frank, like with Fenton McCarthy gone, you have to have him.
It's huge, but we don't like if you'll never trying to find out state of a player's fitness from the Dublin camp is a bit like the third secret of Fatima. Like, I mean, we'll discover when we see the players who come on the pitch that day. But I'd give a very, very tentative vote for Dublin. But my overall conviction this weekend is someone is going to be shocked. We're going to come away from the weekend, and one of the big heavy hitters, at least one or maybe two, are going to be gone, and we're saying, wow, we're into the last 12 of the All-Ireland and they're not there.
Yeah, despite the lack of jeopardy that we're said with all these games. But when you have these really competitive groups where you have 4 teams, like all basically Division 1 teams, the Division 1 team is going to be gone, so somebody's going to lose out. It's going to be fascinating. I'm going to go with Armagh, Dublin, Galway, Derry. I actually think Dublin and Derry might end up in a draw. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to end up in a draw. And I just think, this is probably Pádraig Joyce's reign as Galway boss on the line here. And I just think, despite the fact that Armagh will run the squad and there's competition for places, this is everything for Galway. Really is everything. And it's just something I want to chat to you about as well. There's not that big of a sample size to go on because there's only been 2 kind of seasons of this, but the All-Ireland winners in 23 and 24 both topped their groups in Dublin and Armagh. The second place teams, Galway were have the ones that are fared best by getting to the All-Ireland final last year. And if you finish third, the best that any team has done is Monaghan getting to the quarterfinals in 2023 or semi-finals in 2023. So where you finish in the group, given the proximity of games, is everything really. It mightn't have an effect this week or next week, but the week after that, and all of a sudden, week on week on week, and you're under pressure.
If you're in a group of death this weekend and you come through by hook or by crook in 1, 2 or 3, you're delighted, you're relieved. You go on the next week, you might win your preliminary quarter-final, but more often than not, it'll catch you out at the quarter-final stage. And that's what happened. I mean, Mayo 2 years ago were a classic example. I mean, in typical Mayo fashion, they should have topped that group, and they I won't say they bottled it, but they threw it away against Cork the last day. They ended up going into a preliminary quarter-final away to Galway. Huge game, but they managed to sneak through there. First half played really well against Dublin a week later, and then the second half, tank was empty. Dublin just piled through them.
Yeah, the reserves weren't there, and it will catch you at some stage, or it'll catch your depth. The other games on Saturday, Meath and Kerry is a top of the table clash. A draw will do Kerry to finish top of the table. Meath need to beat them to finish top. Bottom of the table clash between Roscommon and Cork. Basically, winner goes through there. If it's a draw, it'll come down to scoring difference. And then on Sunday, we have Monaghan and Down facing off. That's a top of the table clash. Both are through already, but whoever wins goes through as table toppers and earns an extra week's rest, and then Louth and Clare, the winner goes through. But you mentioned Mayo, and we have to talk about Mayo. They were beaten by Cavan the first weekend, and while they bounced back last weekend, that Cavan defeat could really come back to haunt them here. You have Cavan on 2, Tyrone on 2, Donegal on 2, Mayo on 2. And if Mayo don't get a result this weekend against Donegal, they're more than likely going to be out. So that's huge, and that Cavan game could really come back to bite them.
I think this is the perfect example of picking your matches to lose as well as win in the All-Ireland group stages, because Cavan going into that group were seen as very much, they were the 4th seed. They were seen as, you know, the team you need to beat. And by Mayo losing so poorly at home the first day, apart from all the noise that generated in the county and the kind of negativity, and this was even before Kevin McStay had to step back because of health issues, it left Mayo really, really on the back foot. And, you know, they came out against Tyrone. It was much, much more like, we call it the Mayo of old. You know, they played front foot football. They moved the ball more quickly. They were winning tackles, winning turnovers, even winning kickouts, which they haven't been doing. And it was, you know, overall, in the circumstances, it was a really, really good performance. But Donegal, even though Tyrone have beaten Donegal, this just shows you the nature of our groups of death. Donegal is a bigger ask. And it's an even bigger ask because of, you know, there's a 2-week run into this. I mentioned earlier about the kind of the backlash performance. You know, when a team has its backs to the wall, they've tended to produce in this group. But this is different now. This is the last day. Mayo have played well the last day. They have to repeat that and play, I would think, better again to have a chance. And if they lose and Tyrone beat Cavan, which most people expect, Mayo are gone. You know, so they have to get a draw. Draw will be enough. Yeah, in the sort of, even with scoring.
Just 2 draws would be some crack.
2 draws would be some, 2 draws would be some crap, but it's a crack, but it's straightforward. Then Cavan are gone, and that's where I was at the Donegal Armagh match there last Sunday week, and you know, for a lot of the first half, Donegal weren't playing brilliantly. They were playing with a big enough wind and were struggling to pull away. And there was a kind of a lovely tete-a-tete between the managers on the line shortly before half-time. And from then on, Donegal just destroyed Cavan. It was almost, Cavan made the fatal mistake of poking the bear, like, you know. But as the second half went on, and Cavan, I mean, the resistance just disappeared to nothing really in the closing stages. You could almost sense that Donegal were kind of saying, right, we're going to make sure that if this group does come down to scoring difference, we're in the box seat.
Yeah, they put themselves in a really good spot in that.
Yeah, but they still, as you go through, I mentioned, like, you know, there'll be a shock somewhere and some heavyweight is going to be eliminated this weekend potentially. If Donegal lose, and Cavan gets something out of Tyrone, Donegal are gone. And we'll all wake up on Monday morning saying, how did that happen? Half of us had kind of Donegal, not even so much as dark horses for the All-Ireland, but, you know, many people's favourite as well.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of this format.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. We obviously have Tailteann Cup quarterfinals as well this weekend. Kildare and Offaly being a particular highlight, and a really good double header in St. Conleth's Park in Newbridge on Saturday evening. We're down to 8 in the race for Liam McCarthy. Kildare are probably not a county that we thought would be within that 8. They face Dublin in Newbridge on Saturday evening, and Laois face the unenviable task of welcoming Tipperary to town, which is going to be really difficult with their morale on the floor after being beaten by 10 points in the Joe McDonagh. But just on Kildare, you're talking about shocks. Any slight hope of a shock here, maybe?
Well, there's more hope of a shock here than there is in Laois v Tipperary, and I do have an issue with the Joe McDonagh Cup runners-up going on into the All-Ireland series. And it's not so much that I don't think they should be there. I think it's unfair on asking a team whose morale or their mood is going to be on the floor to come out a week later and play a heavyweight team that has qualified from, in this case, the other group of death, the Munster round robin in hurling. there's a chance, I'd say, with Kildare, but I'd still be majorly surprised because a lot of people thought Dublin were going to reach a Leinster final. They didn't, as they fell short against Galway on the last day. But they've been operating at this level for quite a long time. Kildare have literally jumped through the grades in hurling, and there is the factor of how will I hope, and I'm sure they did celebrate. We won't say too widely, but they celebrated that
could
Sunday.
Still be celebrated.
They might still be, yeah. And fair play to them. They fully deserve it, because it was a wonderful achievement what that group has done in the last few years. Literally putting hurling on the map in Kildare. But it's a great occasion, first of all. I think this is, you're talking about double headers, and sometimes you get neutral double headers and they're complete damn squibs because the fans from the first game turn up and then they disappear before the second one has even started. Here, Kildare fans have a chance to come out, A, pay tribute to their hurling team, be there, cheer them on. Hopefully it's a good competitive game, and then what follows is a lovely, tasty local derby, because the Kildare and Offaly, they don't particularly like each other on the eastern Offaly, western Kildare front. If they talk about different rivalries the counties have, depending on where you're from, as you know, in Offaly, if you're from the Derry neck of the woods, I think Kildare are enemy number one.
Yeah, our rivalries are Laois and Tipperary. That's where the hatred comes from. But at the other end, it's definitely Kildare and parts of Westmeath as well. When you get over towards Moat and those places.
Exactly, I'd know well, so I would. But and the other fact is that they have met in the Division 3 league final not so long ago, and Kildare were fancied, but not overly fancied for that final. But they were seen as the bigger county, the bigger team, we'll say. And Offaly were fully deserving the victory that day. It gave them a title, and now here's a chance for Kildare revenge or whatever. But it's makes for a really fascinating game and a hard one to call.
An intriguing weekend ahead on both fronts, and we'll be back again next week to preview all the weekend's action next week.